While you are crying on the outside, he is screaming on the inside. The difference is, society gave you permission to feel, and it gave him a mandate to suppress. You sit in the silence of your room, exhausted. You are tired of waiting. You are tired of analyzing every memory, trying to make sense of a connection that defies all logic. And the thought that haunts you the most, the question that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. is this: is he just happily moving on? Am I the only one bleeding? You look at his silence, his distance, perhaps his complete withdrawal, and your mind tells you that he must not care, that the avoidant soul has simply walked away unscathed, while you, the anxious heart, are left holding the ashes of a burning world. But this is an illusion, a projection of a society that has profoundly misunderstood the internal landscape of the masculine psyche. Today, we are going to look behind the veil of his silence. We are going to explore the masculine dark night of the soul. We will dismantle the myth of the unfeeling man, and we will reveal the crushing, silent pressure he faces when he encounters a love that shatters his entire worldview. This is not a message of false hope. It is a transmission of clarity. It is time to step out of the pain of the ego and into the intellectual and spiritual understanding of what is truly happening. To understand his silence, you must first understand his architecture. From the moment he was a young boy, the unawakened counterpart was taught a very specific survival strategy. He was taught that his value lies in his strict logic. His worth is measured by his control, his stability, and his ability to build a safe, predictable reality. The masculine nervous system is heavily conditioned by centuries of societal expectation. It seeks stability above all else. It seeks things that can be measured, quantified, and reasoned with. Society does not grant him the permission to be emotionally undone. It demands stoicism. It rewards detachment. Over the years, he built a formidable fortress. He constructed a life of duty, image, and safety. He created a reality that made perfect, mathematical sense. Every brick was laid with the mortar of logic. He knew the rules of the game. He knew how to win. He knew exactly how to keep the chaotic, unpredictable forces of deep emotion safely locked outside the gate. And then he met you. When a profound quantum entanglement occurs between two souls, it does not politely knock on the door of the ego. It is a seismic event. It is an earthquake that bypasses logic entirely. It speaks an ancient language his conscious mind does not know how to translate. You felt the connection, and your heart immediately expanded. You became the holder of space. You leaned into the mystery because the anxious heart is inherently willing to brave the unknown for the sake of love. You intuitively understand the language of the invisible. But when he felt this connection, his nervous system did not perceive it as a beautiful romance. His nervous system perceived it as a mortal threat. True spiritual connection violently dismantles the logical structures he built his entire identity upon. If this inexplicable, gravity-defying love is real, then everything else he believed about his life is suddenly called into question. His previous choices, his parameters for happiness, and his entire definition of reality begin to crumble beneath his feet. The foundation of his fortress is shaking, and the logical mind hates nothing more than a mystery it cannot solve. He tries desperately to analyze the connection. He tries to put it into a neatly labeled box. He tries to reduce it to mere biology or temporary infatuation. But quantum entanglement defies all categorization. It operates outside of time, space, and reason. The more he tries to rationalize the magnetic pull toward you, the more out of control he feels. His silence, therefore, is not a state of indifference. His silence is a state of profound cognitive shock. In psychology, we look at the nervous system's automatic response to overwhelming stimuli. We know these trauma responses as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. When the avoidant soul goes quiet, he has simply entered the freeze response. The mirroring effect of your soul, reflecting his deepest, hidden self back to him, is completely blinding. It is too much raw data for his conditioned mind to process at once. What does this mirror show him? It does not just show him your love. It shows him his own repressed desires. It illuminates the unhealed fragments of his past. It highlights the vast, terrifying distance between the life he is currently living and the authentic life his soul actually craves. He cannot fight the love because it is already alive inside him. He cannot outrun it because quantum entanglement means you exist within his very energetic field. You are persistently present in his dreams. You are the ghost in the quiet moments between his thoughts. So, his overloaded system defaults to the only remaining survival mechanism. He freezes. He abruptly shuts down all external communication because the internal noise is absolutely deafening. You look at his blank expression or his unanswered messages and assume he does not care. You assume he has casually walked away unscathed. But you are looking at a man standing in the wreckage of his own logic, completely paralyzed by a reality he cannot manipulate or control. He withdraws to protect the crumbling walls of his identity. He desperately needs silence to try and rebuild the fortress. He needs vast amounts of distance to convince himself that he is still the undisputed master of his universe. This is what esoteric traditions call the Tower moment. The universe sends a sudden bolt of lightning to destroy a structure that was built on a false foundation. His ego was built on the false premise that he could safely control life through pure intellect. You are the lightning. The love you effortlessly triggered in him is the sudden storm that exposed the extreme fragility of his walls. He is not happily moving on without you. He is staring at the rubble of his worldview. He is desperately trying to figure out how a single connection could completely overthrow a lifetime of careful planning and emotional repression. He feels a terrifying, free-falling loss of gravity. The logical mind demands hard evidence, but his soul only offers deep feeling. This internal collision creates an agonizing friction within him. Deep down, he realizes that to accept this profound love, he must entirely surrender his need for control. He must let the old, safe version of himself die. And for a mind that has only ever relied on logic, ego death feels exactly like actual annihilation. If we shift our perspective from the sharp pain of personal rejection to the quiet clarity of observation, a profound metamorphosis reveals itself. You must step back from the frantic narrative of the anxious heart. you must look closely at the battlefield of his mind. What you are witnessing from afar is not a man happily moving on. You are witnessing an ego death. Spiritual communities often romanticize the dark night of the soul. They paint it as a gentle, poetic awakening, but in reality, it is a brutal, disorienting tear in the very fabric of a person's reality. For the masculine psyche, this psychological tearing manifests as a violent internal civil war. He is fundamentally split in two. On one side stands the life he carefully built. This is the life of heavy duty, societal approval, strict logic, and perceived safety. It is the life where he knows the rigid rules and plays the expected role. On the other side is the terrifying life his awakened soul is suddenly demanding. This is a life of boundless expansion. It demands authentic truth. It demands radical vulnerability. It demands a reality where a profound connection with you actually exists. He is currently suspended over an abyss between these two incompatible worlds. He is entirely unable to fully return to the old reality. The old world now feels incredibly small, hollow, and suffocating. Yet, he is absolutely terrified to step into the new reality. To step forward requires the total annihilation of his current identity. So, how does this profound psychological suffering manifest in the physical world? It does not usually manifest in visible tears. It does not look like long poetic journal entries or emotional confessions. It manifests in aggressive numbing. You may look at his life from a distance and see him burying himself entirely in his career. You may see him suddenly picking up demanding new hobbies. He might surround himself with superficial relationships or retreat heavily into the shallow distractions of the material world. The anxious heart looks at this frantic movement and thinks he is perfectly fine. You assume he simply does not care. You believe the illusion he is projecting. But as the great psychoanalyst Carl Jung observed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. His intense workaholism is not a sign of his inner peace. It is a desperate anesthetic for his deep psychological pain. The harder he runs, the more exhausting energy it takes to keep the absolute truth at bay. He is frantically trying to reconstruct the logical walls of his old fortress. But the mortar of his previous life will no longer hold the bricks together. The old achievements that used to bring him a sense of immense pride now taste like ash in his mouth. He goes through the mechanical motions of his daily routine. He smiles when he is supposed to smile, but there is a persistent, haunting void expanding in his chest. He misses you, but far more terrifyingly, he misses the version of himself that existed before his eyes were forcefully opened. He is actively grieving the permanent loss of his own ignorance. Before the quantum entanglement of your connection, his life was completely predictable. It was safe. It was manageable. The awakening of the soul destroys that safety forever. This resulting pain and this exhausting internal friction are absolutely necessary for his evolution. You must understand the deep mechanics of this transformation. Do not wish this heavy pain away for him. The intense friction of this civil war is the exact fire required to burn away his lifetime of conditioning. The human ego does not gracefully surrender because it wants to evolve. The ego only surrenders because it has absolutely no other choice. It surrenders when the crushing pain of holding onto an illusion finally outweighs the deep terror of stepping into the truth. He must walk through this desolate, dark night alone. He must directly face the terrifying shadows of his own deeply rooted inadequacy. He must confront his paralyzing fear of engulfment. He must look at his hidden fear of absolute failure. These are the psychological dragons guarding the gold of his authentic self. If you truly love him with a high spiritual maturity, you must respect his sacred process enough to let him struggle. You must allow him to fight this civil war without your intervention. He is dismantling the false architecture of a lifetime. The silent, avoidant behavior is simply the smoke billowing from the burning down of his old ego. He is not leaving you behind. He is frantically trying to survive the intense, burning alchemy of his own ruin. So where does this incredibly complex dynamic leave you? You are the solvent, sophisticated soul who has been faithfully holding space for a very long time. You are intellectually gifted and spiritually experienced, but you are understandably exhausted. To navigate this final phase, it requires a radical shift in your own internal posture. You must learn the profound art of compassionate detachment. This is not about walking away in bitter anger. This is about holding immense love for his difficult process without constantly trying to save him from it. You must integrate 3 profound internal shifts today to reclaim your absolute peace and your inherent power. Your first necessary shift is the complete surrender of the savior complex. As the holder of space, your most natural instinct is to fiercely nurture. You inherently want to explain the connection, to heal his trauma, and to fix his broken pieces. You desperately want to send him the perfect message or offer the exact, insightful words that will finally help him wake up from his slumber. You must drop this heavy rope. You simply cannot do his spiritual push-ups for him. When you frantically try to intervene in his dark night of the soul, you are unknowingly interrupting his necessary initiation. You are sending a subconscious, energetic signal that you do not actually trust his innate strength. You are inadvertently treating him like a fragile project rather than a sovereign equal. He is a grown man with his own powerful, autonomous soul. He must successfully slay his own psychological dragons. He must earn the absolute right to stand beside you in his full masculine power. When you finally step back, you permanently stop being his emotional crutch. You force him to find his own internal spine. You allow him the profound dignity of his own difficult transformation. Your second shift requires mastering the alchemy of your own nervous system. You must deeply understand this immutable law of quantum entanglement. You share a deeply connected, energetic grid. When you reside in the frantic energy of the anxious heart, you're constantly panicking. You are hyper-analyzing his every move and vibrating with a low frequency of fear and abandonment. When you do this, you are unconsciously feeding immense pressure directly into the unseen connection. His nervous system is already completely overwhelmed by his own internal chaos. He feels your anxious, desperate pulling as a heavy demand he simply cannot meet right now. Your greatest spiritual assignment is not to forcefully heal him. Your greatest assignment is to radically regulate your own nervous system. You must absolutely stop waiting for his return to validate your existence. The true holder of space does not put their magnificent life on a permanent pause. You are a sovereign, highly intelligent, and incredibly powerful being. You must pour that fierce, analytical, spiritual energy entirely back into your own physical life. You must aggressively build your own empire. Cultivate your own profound joy. Rest your exhausted physical body. When you finally anchor into true, grounded peace within yourself, you instantly remove the suffocating energetic pressure from him. In the total silence, without your anxiety pulling at his energetic field, he's finally left entirely alone with his own heart. He's forced to listen to his own soul. Your third and final shift is completely reframing the silence. You must absolutely stop viewing his prolonged silence as a calculated weapon formed against you. Silence is not abandonment. Silence is a necessary incubator. When he is entirely quiet, it is because his internal world is undergoing a massive demolition and a subsequent reconstruction. If you view his necessary distance as a cruel personal rejection, you will stay forever trapped in a painful cycle of victimhood. You will continually drain your own vital life force, but if you deliberately shift your paradigm, everything changes. You must view his vast distance as a dark, necessary cocoon. In this profound mental shift, you can find unshakable peace. You can look at the vast, empty space between you and feel a sense of profound reverence. You can silently say to his soul that you honor the agonizing work he is doing in the dark. You deeply respect the necessary death of his old ego. You give him the ultimate gift of taking all the time he desperately needs. You release the frantic need to mathematically control the timeline of his spiritual awakening. By practicing this compassionate detachment, you become an immovable anchor in the violent storm. You stop being violently tossed around by the turbulent waves of his internal crisis. You return to the calm, deep ocean of your own magnificent existence. You let the natural gravity of the connection do the heavy lifting while you remain perfectly still and perfectly whole. Is happily moving on. That you have is happily moving on, that you have forgotten your own gravity. You have forgotten that a love like this, a love that breaks worldviews, a love that transcends the physical plane, leaves a permanent mark on the soul. He has not forgotten you. He cannot forget you any more than he can forget how to breathe. But he must learn to breathe in this new atmosphere. He must reconcile the logical man he was taught to be with the spiritual man his soul is demanding he become. He is suffering, he is stretching, he is breaking open. And the greatest, most profound love you can offer him right now is your absolute trust in his ability to survive it. Turn your gaze inward, reclaim your energy. Let the ocean of your own life hold you. You are safe, you are whole, and you are deeply, intrinsically understood. If this transmission brought you clarity today, if it shifted the heavy weight you have been carrying, I invite you to join our community. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below with the words, "I release the rope." Until next time, protect your peace, trust the silence, and remember the quiet power of your own beautiful soul.